Welcome to the Mama's Village podcast, CT, where Fairfield County moms discover they're not alone in their struggles while uncovering the hidden gems, local treasures, and real solutions that make motherhood in Connecticut not just survivable, but extraordinary. I am Abby Hartley, and I have an awesome guest today. She is a Fairfield real estate agent working for Compass Real Estate, who, after finding herself in the sandwich generation, is starting a community of local people who are in the same boat as her, and she calls it In the Middle, CT. And she had her first meeting last week and is going to tell us about what this group does and how they support each other. I'm very excited to welcome Alex Augusta. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your kids? Tell me about just what In the Middle is all about. What is the sandwich generation even?
So my name is Alex. I'm born and raised in New York City, moved to Connecticut on the COVID bus, as we say, in 2021, live in Fairfield. Never been happier. I have a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old. Like you said, I'm a real estate agent. And yes, sandwich generation. So this summer or late last spring, my mom's health just started to decline really, really quickly. And it was a really rough summer of figuring it all out and balancing everything. And I just realized that it was an ongoing situation. Like, it wasn't like there was like a blip and then it was done and move on with life. It was a realization that this is the new life, dealing with her and her health and however it has changed and the ongoing issues surrounding that. And the more I spoke with friends and found other people who were dealing with the same thing, I found comfort in that and talking about it. And as I dealt with all the issues going on, I also found a lot of companies and people and resources that are there to help. And the sandwich generation part is being sandwiched between taking care of your kids and then taking care of your parents. So being in the middle. And so, yeah, I thought I want to create a community because I want to share what I've learned. Not that I am by any means a total expert, but I have learned a lot and have met a lot of amazing people and want to share that. And also just want to create a space for everybody to come together because it's really hard.
Yeah, that's great. This is an important topic. I have a lot to say about it, and I have some insight into my own, just based on my own experience. I want to first start the podcast saying that you and I are not experts in finances or insurance or any of those things. Medicine, that's right, medicine. But we just have the experience that we've had and, resources. And that's what we're sharing. So before we dive into this topic of conversation, let's do some Fairfield hidden gems. And a hidden gem is just a place in Fairfield that you're not sure everybody knows about, but they should.
Okay.
Do you have anything to share?
I'm not sure I want to share because then parking will be even more difficult. I've been going to an amazing hip hop class taught by Paul Herman. He rents space at Connecticut Dance School. And it's one of the best parts of my week. So
Wow, that's
it is a
awesome.
gem.
Wait, so so you do once a week, you do hip hop classes. Do you ever perform? Is it just for exercise or?
I love to perform. He has had 2 showcases. I did the first one. The second one, I had to bow out because of my mom, because I just wasn't able to get to class consistently. So he does do a showcase, but it's not really about that. It's really just about dancing in the class. We do choreography, we learn it, and then we just do it. And it's so fun.
That is so fun. Wow. Very
So
cool.
fun.
I have to try that.
Yes, come.
Okay. Mine is a pho place in Fairfield, and it's called Pho Na Trong. And I hope I'm saying it correctly, which I'm probably not. But
yes, been there. Really good.
It is so good and very authentic. And it's one of my favorite spots. I think whenever you're getting that sort of itch to have pho, which is right around this time, fall time.
Yep, totally.
That is such a go-to. So,
Totally.
And what are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading?
What am I listening to? I feel like I'm just always listening to show tunes. I like am not listening to anything current ever or whatever my daughter wants to listen to, which is also generally show tunes. I am reading, very appropriate for our discussion. I just started Being Mortal by Atun Gawande. And what are we watching? We're watching so many things. I love television, but Platonic on Apple TV. We're watching season 2 of Platonic.
Okay.
Funny, light. It's good.
Yeah, that is a good one. All right. I have one that is going to be in your reels, in your Instagram or your Facebook reels. Her name, I don't know what her actual name is, but she goes by Peaches and Diesel 104,
Okay.
and she is hilarious. So when you're
Okay.
done with this podcast, it makes you sad, then you need to go to Peaches and Diesel. She makes it's she's like satirical and like making fun of like people of the newest styles, but the way
I
she
love
does it,
that.
it's hilarious. I love her so very much.
I love
So
that.
yes, please, Peaches and Diesel. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I also started to dive into Being Mortal
A
because you
lot.
told me about it. What's that?
A lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. It is a lot. It is a lot. And you have to be prepared for hearing it. I mean, I listened to the audio book as opposed to reading it. And I think, just it's easier for me to sort of swallow, I guess,
Mhm.
that way, because it just sort of like comes in and comes out. Whereas a book feels very like immersive to me. So this is a subject that if you've been through it, you feel it like in your bones, you feel it in your gut. If you haven't been through it, you probably don't really want to talk about it. And that is sort of why we're talking about it, because this subject sort of blindsides you. And I find myself also in this sandwich generation. I didn't even know it was called that because we don't really talk about it. It's not something that we talk about. And I have kids and then I have aging parents. So, it's something that we think about all the time. It's always in the back of my head. Tell me about In the Middle and tell me about what In the Middle provides and what you're trying to build there.
So we had our first meeting, so I think it's still really forming. And I'm trying what I want to provide is what the sort of membership, not that there's a membership, but what the attendees want. So people who came to the first meeting, I really am, you know, going back to and saying, what would be more helpful to you? What do you want to talk about more? That's really going to shape the course of the group. So I can't really say, now like what it's going to be. I think it's going to continue to evolve. Our first meeting, I assembled a panel of colleagues or, business people from different facets of like the senior care industry. So we had somebody who owns a home care agency here in Fairfield. We had the area director for Sunrise Assisted Living. They have assisted living and memory care. We had a gentleman who has a company that does financial and also healthcare planning. So he deals with Medicaid. And then we had a organizer, senior mover. Sorry, it's like all these terms. There's a lot of new terms. Somebody that their company helps people downsize, but also what do you do with all the stuff that's in the house? They'll run an estate sale or they get rid of it. I mean, it's very different than just I'm moving house to house. You know what I mean? This is people's lives. Sometimes the people are deceased, sometimes the people are alive. And so these are houses with decades of memories, and that needs to be handled in a different way than, a typical move. So that's the panel I assembled just to start the conversation. I really just acted as the moderator, and people did submit some questions beforehand. So we just took questions, and then some people, shouted out with questions, and we just sort of had a little conversation, and that was the start. We did it at Cubo, which is a local coffee shop here in Fairfield, local business. And they were closed, so we had the whole space. So we had sandwiches. They have amazing coffee. They had cocktails. And yeah, it went really well.
That's great. That sounds really informative. Lots of, resource sharing, which I think is really helpful when you're going through this. Do you mind sharing your own story and just a little bit more about what you're like, where were you when you really decided that you like, can you tell us a little bit more specifically, like what it
Yeah.
felt like? Where were you when you decided that this was like really hard?
Yeah, so my dad passed away 3 years ago, and my mom seemed to be very with it. Like, she was living by herself, she was cooking, she washed her hair. I mean, her mobility wasn't amazing. She had somebody come and, like, drive her to the store and help her, but she was fine, She sat on the sofa, she got up from the sofa, she got in and out of bed, and then she got a UTI, and we honestly didn't know what was wrong with her. We thought she literally went, this is my sister and I, like, crazy, and we found out it was a UTI, and from there, it was a very rapid decline to rehab. She developed a stomach issue, she got another UTI, back to the hospital. I mean, it just and then she ended up in the hospital for this stomach issue for, like, 2 months, ended up having surgery, and I think there was a cognitive decline prior to all of this, but it was very small, or maybe she it was small and she was able to hide it very well, um, and it just blew up, which an infection can do to an older person. It can just really accelerate that. Again, I'm not a doctor. So the whole summer was spent, and she lives in the city, or she lived in the city. So, going into the city to the hospital, coming back, city back. Da, da, da. I mean, some of those trains are not great. Like, some of them are 100 minutes long. So that was my summer. And I, was exhausted. And, people, when I saw friends, they'd be like, "How are you?" And I was, I'm okay. I don't know. It helps to talk about it. So now that things have settled down a little bit, my mom is in a memory care facility. She's closer to me, which is very helpful. It's still very, very hard, but it's a little more stable. So that's when I mean, I would never have been able to do in the middle, over the summer when all this was going on, everything. I honestly didn't know where she would end up. And at one point, I know we're going to get to this. I didn't know, should she have this surgery? Like, is this going to be the kind of quality of life that she wants? Is she going to be immobile? Like, we really didn't know where she was going to end up health wise. So, yeah, that was just like emergency triage all summer.
Yeah, totally. My mom passed away in 2023, and she had had cancer for about 10 years.
Well,
So for 10 years, she had been dealing with it. But you know what? It was okay. And
right,
so for
right. It
10
was
years,
stable.
she was stable and she was getting through it and it was fine. She wasn't in a ton of pain. It was
Right,
manageable.
right.
When it started to become towards the end of her life, it was almost like we didn't believe it because it had been so long that, she'd
It
gotten
was,
through so
yeah,
many
yeah.
things. So we'll talk a little bit about that quality of life, the denial that you go through. Tell me about what a typical day for you looks like right now.
Oh my gosh, my days are so crazy. I mean, being a real estate agent, I'm like all over the place. I could be in the office working on something. I'm going to the office tomorrow to work on a listing presentation, kid stuff, marketing my business, obviously my mother. I mean, every day is
Are you visiting her every
totally.
day?
I do not visit her every day. I wish I was that good. I'm about
Smart.
once a week. My sister's about once a week. But since I'm so close, sometimes it is a little bit more. We just had to order her a new coat. So it's like, I'll go, I'll bring the coat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but every day it's just sometimes I wish I had more structure, but that's my life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. And when you're going through this, did you go through this at all with your dad when he passed? Do you mind me asking?
No. And it's just so weird because my dad was 10 years older than my mom. And so we always thought, he's going to go first, which he did. But what's interesting, and you and I didn't even get into this, and I'm not going to go that far into it, but my mom had a health episode about 10 years ago that was sort of similar to this cognitively. And that time, that was also very difficult because she was much younger. She was in her 70s, and we were totally not ready. Like, at that point, my dad was in his 80s. We would have been ready for my dad to have some sort of health episode, but definitely not my mom. And so that threw us. But no, my dad, I mean, he didn't have a heart that worked very well, but other than that, he was okay and literally dropped dead just like at the table, which was very hard for us because, we weren't ready. It was sudden, but now I don't know. It's better. You
Yeah.
know, I just
Yeah.
think it's better for the person. In some ways, it's better for the family because you don't watch the person suffer, and you don't suffer going through it. I mean, again, it was a surprise and it was awful, but I mean, that's how I would want to go.
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. Well, when we're talking about this kind of thing, it can be very the resources that you think you need. I think it's almost like you want to make a list, but you don't know how. Did anybody discuss with you like what kind of resources they were asking? You know, what kind of things did people?
So I think I had access to a lot more because I was in a networking group at the time and we had all sorts of different visitors come, and one of the members was a Medicare person and one of the members, people did different things. And there was one woman who came just as a guest, but it stuck with me. She is a doctor who now sort of has a concierge service of helping people with difficult medical conditions of their loved ones sort of wade through it.
Oh, wow.
So she was super helpful, and I never even knew something like that existed. I also have a very good friend who's a doctor. He was an amazing resource. I mean, doctors say things and we just don't understand. We are in an emotional place. We are not doctors. They are overwhelmed. They have so many cases. They can only spend a certain amount of time with you. And I mean, my doctor friend was just saying, like, I don't know how regular people do this, without being doctors. So I'd be texting her. I think I actually had her on one of the calls with the doctor. It's very difficult when you're not in that field to sort
Yeah.
through that information.
Yeah. I think
But yeah, so I had a few, extra tools at my disposal, which ended up being helpful.
what do you think was the most helpful?
My sister.
Yeah, the support.
Yeah, not doing it alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. My brother was very helpful. I mean, for me, I think one of the hardest things is understanding insurance, understanding what is covered and what isn't. If your parent or loved one is in a position where they can't really understand the insurance themselves, then it's up to somebody to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that can get real tricky real fast. You can be on the phone for long periods of time,
Yeah.
and can be really hard. There is So any sort of resource that can help you with that would be, like, something I would put on my list for sure.
Well,
Also
also knowing what your parents' coverage
yes.
is,
Yeah.
because you don't know and you don't need to know until you need to know. And then you need to know then.
Yes.
So I think part of it, and I think well, I'm not sure what our next event will be, but is having that discussion with your parents.
Yes.
What is their plan, and maybe getting somebody to look at it and explain it to you, because there could be things and coverage that they receive that they have no idea whether that's long-term care. I mean, there's many things that can be hidden in there. There are many things that can just not be in there at all. But you don't want to be in the reactive position,
Yes.
about when the SHIT hits the fan and you don't know what to do and you're scrambling. It's much better to know ahead of time and, not necessarily have a plan, but know the information.
Agreed, and, last episode with Michelle Hobart, we talked about the money conversation and how
Well, that's
having
huge.
that money conversation is huge, especially for if you have any siblings or other family members that are wrapped into that money conversation. If you have the conversation beforehand, before anything happens, then everything's out in the open and there's nothing to really fight about. I mean,
Yeah.
like, it just is what it is.
And so many people don't plan and
Yes, don't wanna have that conversation.
don't have their things sorted, and it becomes such a huge, huge mess. Also, you can lose money. Again, not a financial person, but like we have an amazing trust and estates attorney, that we've been working with for a long time. We had lots of calls with her, when we started to talk because we're trying to figure out how are we going to pay
Yeah.
for the assisted living. So yeah, I mean, it's really important to have a plan and that's what your parents want, or whoever's taking care of you. They don't want to leave you with nothing if they have something. you know? So figuring out, how to retain the assets as best as possible is what they want. And a
Absolutely.
social worker at the event actually said that a good way to go about it is to give them back the control. Because I think a lot of this is, we're taking control away from our parents. We're saying, you shouldn't drive and you shouldn't live alone and you shouldn't be cooking and you shouldn't do all this, and these are people, these are individuals who had full lives.
Yes.
So putting the control back on them a little bit and saying, like, I know this is like, we're not dealing with this for a very long time, but, should daddy pass before you, uh, what do you want that to look like? And are you taken care of? And do you know what you have? And what I think it'd be good to just like map it out and see. Obviously, this is very far away, and to have similar conversations like that in that way that sort of gives the control back a little bit.
Mm, yes. I think that one of the things that I remember the most is this feeling of not wanting to be a burden. That's a huge deal. I don't want, like, I don't want to be a burden to my kids. So, not wanting to tell or talk about it is because they don't want to be a burden and they
Yeah.
don't want to lose that control. So, they don't want somebody to be like,
Yeah.
swoop in and like take everything from them. That can be a reason why they don't want to go to the hospital as well. If the hospital doesn't think that they can handle being at home by themselves, or then they just won't go.
Mhm.
And I think that that's something that I didn't realize until it was, you know, too late and we were in the hospital and they were asking questions about her safety and all of these things. And to us, she was safe. To
Right.
them, they were worried that she was gonna fall and all of that, so we ended up
Right.
having, and it's sort of one of those things where it's not in anybody's control except for theirs, and that's something
Yeah.
that's very different. You feel like I'm a citizen of the United States, I can do whatever I want, I can walk out of this
Right.
hospital if I want,
Right. Right.
and you can't.
Right.
And, you need to find a place, and so when that happens, I think it's important to know what your options are. Know, like, if the hospital is saying you need to, I think there's options. Like, if you have them move in with you, that's okay. Like, they just have to be safe.
Yeah,
And
and there's lots of options,
there are lots of yeah,
Yeah.
so let's talk about a couple of them. They could move in with you,
Mhm.
or there's an assisted living, right?
Right.
But
So
then
they can move in with you. There's independent living.
okay.
They can also stay home, and there's things you can do to the home to make it safer, whether that's rails or changes to the shower. Everybody is different. And again, we are not experts. So I'm not saying what anybody's parents should or should live in, but there are ways to age in home safely, whether that involves home care, whether that involves renovation, etc. Then there's also independent living. If, your parents are totally with it and just want to downsize and like want everything on one level and want somebody maybe, they want to have the activities. Their world has become a little more isolated. And so that social part of it is important. And they don't want to take care of the garden and the snow and, all that. That could obviously be a condo, or it can be an independent living if they're looking forward, not looking forward like, yay, but looking ahead as to what might happen next. So there are many independent livings where you can just stay there. Like once you go from independent, then you need a little assistance. Now you're in assisted living. If for some reason then you would need memory care, they have memory care so you can age in place essentially and
Mm,
not have to, move from this place to this place, as your health declines or as your
mm,
health changes. There's independent living, assisted living, and then there's the nursing home, which is that's what everybody's like, don't send me to the nursing home, right? Like that's what everybody's think, but that's also what people think an assisted living is, and it's not. But a nursing home is a skilled nursing facility where, somebody who's bedridden is not going to be able to be in assisted living. Somebody who has, an IV 24 hours is not going to be able to be at an assisted living. It's somebody who really needs that higher level of medical care.
right. Yes, yes. Understanding what those are is really important and where they are in your near you, and
Mhm.
what they yeah, that's a really important thing. Have you had anything surprising, whether it be joyful or emotional, meaningful moments coming from this experience of being in the sandwich generation?
Well, I mean, something that comes to mind, I don't know if this is, the perfect answer, but I had a lot of guilt after my dad passed because I didn't feel that I spent enough time with him. It was COVID. And then, I mean, I did come to cut his hair on COVID, so that was nice. But, it was COVID. So we stayed away. And then I moved to Connecticut and, I had young kids and blah, 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 blah. So I had a lot of guilt about that. And then I didn't want to have that with my mom, but sort of started sliding into that also with just being busy and her being in the city. And I was talking to my therapist about it. And, my mom is still, I mean, she knows who everybody is. She's not like, she doesn't have Alzheimer's. There's cognitive decline. But and what my therapist said, which really just made me feel so much better, is that the time I'm spending with my mom now is the same to her.
Mhm.
It might not be the same to me because she's not exactly who she was for me, but it is for her. And
Mhm.
so that sort of was like a real game changer, light bulb in my head that, I didn't have to be so sad all the time because of how I was experiencing my time with her. If I could just reframe it to how she's feeling and how she's experiencing it, that helped.
That is very helpful. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely had a lot of guilt for I was working so hard. I had little kids. I mean, they weren't so little, but it was,
I mean,
she's
I'm
as
not saying you
far.
have to have toddlers. Like, you can have a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, if
Yeah.
somebody's picking them up, or you're working full time
That's
and you're
the
dealing
thing.
with that, But if you're picking them up, you're taking them to soccer, you're taking them to the doctor, they get sick all the time. My kid,
Yes.
like he has asthma. I mean, there's just like, you know, life. There's a lot. There's a lot of
Right.
life.
Absolutely. It does feel like they're in this position where, I mean, for my mom anyway, I really do feel like she wanted a little bit of sympathy and a little bit of pity and a little bit, like she wanted it to
Hmm.
be everybody is still just a child in big bones. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
she still wanted to be comforted. She still
Right.
wanted to be all of that. And it's not that we didn't do that. It's just you don't look at them like that.
Right.
And
Well,
so
the
that
role
is,
reversal is very
yes,
tricky.
exactly. It is very tricky. And I think for me, not understanding and the denial of it, I think that was one thing that, like, afterwards, the regret and the guilt was because I was in such denial that it was happening for such a
Yeah.
long period of time until it became the end. It just never felt like she was ever going to go. So it just felt like dealing with that is something that I think when I always was open to this. This was something that I've always wanted to do, but she never did, but doing a death doula. And this is
Mm.
another resource that I'm very interested in. I don't know any death doulas you do in the
Yeah,
area?
again, through the networking group, and it sounds like such a heavy thing when someone's like, "I'm a death doula," but go
But
on.
it's actually they're focusing on life and quality of life. And they're
Mhm.
focusing on the loved ones and making sure that there isn't that guilt, that they understand what's happening, that everything is, going in the direction. I just love the idea of that. And I do wish that my mother was not somebody that really liked a lot of people.
Right,
She didn't want other people in this whole situation. She wanted it to be her own thing. This is my own.
right,
It was almost like embarrassing, It was like, let me
right,
just do this
right,
for myself.
right.
And you have to, it's your experience as the child, but it's their experience as the person that's passing. And it's really this is like as important as a birth is as important as a death, and it can be
Well,
as
and that's
beautiful.
what the book, you know, talks about is like, it's not just how we feel.
Yeah.
You have to always remember how the individual feels, and it's their life and, their choices.
Yes. And I think one of the things that my mom was always really annoyed by is that there are so many doctors and nurses and palliative care that take this sort of sweet as pie, everything's going to be okay, and don't give it to you straight. And it's all, she called it like toxic positivity. She didn't like
Mhm.
that at all. She did not want
Mhm.
that in any way. If somebody had toxic positivity to
Get them
her,
out.
she just couldn't handle it. She was like, I know what's happening. Stop treating me like I don't know what's happening.
Right, right, right.
And for me and my brother, we would be like, come on, mom, like, you don't have to be like that. But she did. She knew what was happening in her body. And it was annoying to her that people were like
Yeah,
trying to make it feel like it wasn't happening.
yeah,
And I get it now. And I
yeah,
understand that now. And I think that that probably was pretty annoying.
yeah,
It probably was pretty, like, she was like, listen, guys, like, you're like out of reality here. And I need somebody, to.
yeah.
So once she did move into a facility, they saw what
Mhm.
was happening and they
Right.
were able to support her in the way that
That's
she
that's
needed
great.
ultimately.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
also, okay, so another thing that I wanted to talk about is the children aspect of it, because
I know we're focusing on the
we
top of the bun.
focus. Yes, we focus so much. Well, this was something that was also really hard for me and something I literally had nightmares about, is like dropping all of the balls. You have so
Mhm.
many balls up in the air. You have so much stress. For me, I mean, I had a panic attack one day just in the parking lot of the hospital because,
Yeah.
like, I just felt like I was
Yeah,
missing
yeah.
everything. I had nightmares that my kids I had a nightmare that my daughter was in the middle of the desert screaming and I couldn't hear her.
Oh
I
my
mean, like,
gosh. Yeah.
I was having a hard time. Like, I just kept feeling like I was never gonna be enough to anybody at any time, and that it was, how do you include the kids? It's like you wanna include them, but you also want to shield them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, they knew my mom was in the hospital, so they knew I had to go there a lot. I think you really have to accept that balls are like going to drop. And honestly, like I'm still dropping balls. I mean, I brought my son to a birthday party an hour and a half late this weekend. And I'm just like, you know what? I didn't really care because there are more important things in life. I was just like, you got to laugh it off. Like, I just can't keep track of everything.
Yeah.
And in my defense, the party was supposed to be at 1 o'clock, but it got rescheduled. So I just couldn't remember.
Yeah.
God, I honestly was just trying to get through. Like, I can't even say every day. It was almost like every hour and asking for help and asking friends to pick somebody up if they needed to. My daughter's older. So if she needed to pick up her brother, you need help. Like, you can't do it all yourself. And you just have to ask for the help,
Yeah.
whether it's your
Absolutely.
partner or your neighbor. I mean, it's too much to do yourself. You can't. And balls are going to drop. But like, at the end of the day, I rather my kids are nice kids than they go to every birthday party on time
Yeah.
or they wear the right color on Wednesday for school, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What are your hopes for in the middle as a community?
I would love in the middle to, be a supportive place. And I want it to be a place where we all learn. Again, like I said, I'm not an expert. I still have a lot more to learn. And where we can have, like, these are difficult conversations that you don't always want to have. And, some of your friends might have parents who are younger or they don't have kids, so it's not something that you're always talking about. So to have a safe place where you can always talk about these things and share what's going on and not feel like you're a burden. I mean, often I feel like we feel like we're a burden to our partner because we're crying all the time or we're this, and so they need a break. So to have a safe place for that where we can be there for each other, but also learn, I think is the vision.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell me, for anyone listening right now, is there one thing that you hope to tell them or that you hope that in the middle will help them do? Like, is there one like
I mean,
sentence?
really, it's that, you're not alone. Other people are going through what you're going.
Yeah. For me, I definitely want that feeling of like you're not alone, but also it's okay to feel your feelings.
Totally.
It's
Yes.
okay to feel all the guilt, all the grief, all the anger, all the everything. And I love that in the middle is being formed because it's a place where other people, you don't feel so alone.
When I gave the intro speech at the meeting, I was like, this time it sucks. It's hard. So, exactly what you're saying, acknowledging that it sucks, that it's really rough, but we have to go through it. I mean,
And
if you have
it's
kids and
going
you have
to happen.
parents, it's going to happen. Your
That's
parents are
right.
going to get older and need you, your kids need you. So it's really unavoidable for many of us.
Yes, and when you realize that you're in this stage of life, for me, it was a denial, and for my brother, I think it was a denial, and now that my father is getting older, we're not in denial anymore, and now we sort of see, "Okay, this is going to happen." So now
Right.
and it's a shame the first one isn't necessarily like that.
Right, right.
The
It's like
second
the
one now,
first
it's like
kid.
we've learned. Yeah, it's like kids. Yeah, it's like, like and I actually did think of that, like, birth and death are very it's just one across the line, like, it's very close together in terms of, like, spirit, in terms of, what we're there's a transition to that,
Yeah,
so it's all, very, very easy to get emotional about and very easy to want to avoid, the topic of conversation. I'm just thinking, like, first steps, like, if you find yourself in this, like, listening to this and you're like, "I'm here,"
mhm.
what's one of the first steps that somebody can take besides going to, one of your meetings?
I sort of wanna say your attorney. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. I mean, I think your siblings, to be honest, I think you really can't do it alone, and you're gonna have to count on each other, and at the end of the day, when it is just gonna be you and your siblings to carry on the family and carry on the stories and the memories, so yeah, I mean, that it's very, very hard for an only child. I guess I need to rephrase, because what if you're an only child? Then you just need a different support.
Therapy, yeah, perhaps friends, therapists. I think for me, one of the things that I really needed, my mom allowed me in to doctor's appointments and allowed me in to this palliative care. Once I had that conversation with that palliative care person, I realized that palliative care was not giving up. It was not it was not such a terrible thing, and that person was the way that I was able to come to terms with a lot of the things that were about to happen. And so I think that one of the first things, like, if you're in a stage, so it depends on what stage you are.
It totally depends on what stage. Yeah. I
Exactly.
mean, there's a very wide.
A wide stage. So if you're in a stage of life where you're just seeing that your parent needs some extra care, talking to a professional, whether it's the doctor or whatever, to understand as much as possible the words coming out of their mouth.
Yes. Yes.
That to me can be one of the hardest things because they'll
Yes.
say it in many different ways and they'll use euphemisms and sometimes they're ultra bright about it and sometimes they're ultra like cut and dry about it. So understanding what they're saying is like I think one of the first things that I would say see if you can get your parent to schedule or let you in on one of these conversations with the doctor.
100%.
It's not something they're used to and it's not
Right.
something you're used to,
Right. Right.
but very, very helpful. You get a full scope
Yes.
of
Well,
what is happening.
yeah. It's very rare that your parent tells you everything that happened at the doctor.
Right, right.
What was
Very
said.
rare.
Yeah.
Right. But this is a conversation and the doctors like in an aging parent have had these conversations with children of the parents before and they know what to say. There are words that they say to let you know it's time to start having these conversations and to get the
Right.
ball rolling.
Right.
Or find they're not quite safe right now at home. You need to
Right.
find so they're the first stop to me.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, lawyer, like whatever, then you have the money
I guess for
conversation.
me, like there can be so many logistics that, and she was going into a surgery and she was 83. And I mean, we sort of had to prepare, like, what if
Right.
God forbid she doesn't come out of surgery? Is everything like in order so that, getting and it's very unpleasant to having to deal with logistics and paperwork and insurance when you're really in a totally emotional place.
Yes.
That's why, I was like, oh, the lawyer was great because, to know you have everything set on that end allows you to, be
Yes.
more emotional and be more present other than like, you need to get this document signed. And like, it's just
Yeah.
crazy. There's a large financial piece of this,
Yes.
because where is mom or dad going to go? Can they pay for it? Like, unfortunately, the logistics and the lawyer were really important because we needed to figure out where she was going and how we were going to pay for it
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
because that's just a fact of life.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Um, all right. Is there anything else that you want to talk about with In the Middle? How can we find In the Middle? How can we find you?
So um I just started an In the Middle Instagram. It's In the Middle CT. I'm on Instagram. I believe I'm Alex Augusta CT. I just changed the name, so might have to fact check me on that one. um, but yes, would love to connect. I'm also you know, always open to like meeting people for coffee and talking to people. Like you don't have to come to a meeting. Like I'm here to connect and we can all like learn from each other. So that's how you can find us. I actually do think the next event is going to be a little more low key and involving that social worker and a little more focused on how to have these difficult conversations with mom and dad because they're hard to have.
They are. Yes, they are. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for having this conversation. It's
Yeah.
really great. I appreciate it. Let me know when you are having one of these meetings. I'd love to promote it and I'd love to tell people about it because I think this is very important for our generation.
Yeah. It's happening.
It's happening no matter what. That's right.
Happening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.